Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Let's dive in. It's been another big week in crypto with plenty of news to go over on this day in crypto history. So it's only been a year since Korea followed suit, copying China to ban ICOs. And a lot of people were fearful that ICOs were dead or that Bitcoin was dead when these countries put in those bans. But as we've seen, the anti-fragile nature of cryptocurrency finds a way to survive and thrive. So a year since Cardano's been launched, another exciting project that I only added to my portfolio recently. I had some orders filled at 10 cents and 7 cents after being pretty patient. That one certainly pulled back a long way, but one that I'm excited to see how they go once they launch that functioning second layer of that blockchain. And I'll continue to do deep fundamental analysis once we have more details about exactly how that's going to look. 2016, OneCoin was a big Ponzi scheme going around at the time. This is why people that have been in the space saw through BitConnect and USI Tech straight away, whereas people that were only new to the space were defending these things blindly, saying, no, it can't be a pyramid scheme. I'm getting paid out, and that's their defense. And that's how it happens, guys, until that last level where it crumbles and they make off with everyone's funds. 2015, Mike Tyson launched his brand of crypto ATMs. I think they're still kicking about. They did have their share of news headlines and scandals and whatnot, but I think they're still kicking about in Vegas. If anyone in the US wants to let me know if they've used a Mike Tyson Bitcoin ATM. 2014, PayPal started flirting with using Bitcoin, mainly their subsidiaries. That never really took off, but I think Bitcoin is going to surpass, as we've already seen in terms of volume, but in terms of brand recognition and global usage anyway. So we don't need these other payment systems to integrate Bitcoin for it to succeed. Following on from the ICO bans of Korea and China last year, we still don't have a lot of clarity, and this was great to see this week. 15 congressmen come out and say, stop tiptoeing around it. You know, some people have said that Ethereum is not a security, and then you haven't said anything official, and we're hearing different conflicting stories about an ICO has been securities, and we're going to crack down on every ICO, and then nothing happens for a few months. So come out and clear up these guidelines, because otherwise the smartest minds are going to move away from the US, and we're already seeing that happening. And whether or not it's China or Korea, it just drives it underground or to another country. And this is what we're seeing reports coming out. You know, investors are just sort of circumventing this ban. And this happens a lot in China. You speak to the locals, and when something is banned, it just means it kind of goes underground into the WhatsApp groups, the Telegram groups, and all, you know, it just creates that black or grey market of sorts. And it's certainly still there. It's thriving. I've spoken about this before, and it's probably just a matter of time until they come back in full force, because we see things exactly like this. Chinese hotel to accept Ethereum. So has China really banned crypto? As we've said, when we're seeing things like this every day, and you talk to the locals, they're still using crypto, buying, trading, OTC. Tech giants like Baidu coming out, releasing their super chain. You guys know that I'm not a real fan, or I'm not really threatened by these big players. You know, if Facebook want to launch their own blockchain, that's fine, but the real key ingredient for most blockchains is that decentralized nature. So if these tech giants want to make centralized blockchains, I don't really see the benefit of them just using a database and so on. They're going to play around with it. They're going to experiment. It's going to be good for some things, but it's certainly not going to overtake Bitcoin or Ethereum and these other infrastructure decentralized plays in my mind. I've got my Eosphere shirt on today. So Eosphere is the biggest block producer candidate for EOS in Australia. Now, this was one of the reasons I was a little bit cautious about EOS early on. Now, I do own it, guys, and I'm not spreading FUD, but this has come out this week that there's certainly been some collusion, and this was, I guess, always going to happen. You can't say that, oh, we're just going to vote for 21 and they're going to get paid a lot of EOS and make a lot of money without there being some forms of collusion. Now, yes, everyone can have a vote, but this is what we're already seeing with people getting together and saying, well, I'll pay you if you vote for me, and all this sort of thing. So does the little guy really have that much of a say compared to the general community? And someone like Eosphere in Australia hopefully Nuggets News can help them get some more votes. They're currently sitting at about 0.9%. If they can get to 2% of EOS votes, they get into the top 21. Now, someone like EOSphere in Australia that have partnered with RMIT, if they're going to pump lots of money into the community, I'd much rather see them being a block producer than someone maybe like Horby that's already, raking in billions in trading fees and getting listing fees and ICOs and wash trading with volume. We don't know really what's going on. I'd much rather see community-driven projects. So if you guys are interested in that, I might do tutorials on all that. And if we can pump more money into supporting grassroots crypto movement in Australia, I'm all for that. This was another big item this week. The Google ad ban being reversed. So to start off with, it's in the US and Japan. Obviously, they're two huge players in the crypto space. Being able to advertise is going to bring in that next wave of retail. Now that we know which exchanges are doing things by the book, have the right licenses, all that sort of thing, guys. This is all part of the business cycle, the bear market, the correction that we had to have, and now we can come out the other side. And all these headlines that I'm going through, and I'll finish off with some thoughts today, it's just showing me that we're so close. We're really laying those foundations for that next wave. Closer to home, a project Red Belly blockchain. Now, if anyone can get hold of these guys, I've emailed them once or twice. They tend to keep to themselves, but apparently 30,000 transactions per second have been achieved on Amazon Cloud. I'd love to have them on the show. If anyone's got those contacts at the CSIRO in Sydney, let me know. Reach out on Twitter or nuggetsnews.com.au, guys, and we'd love to interview them. This is a bit of a touchy one here. So DigitalX have been a company listed for many years. They've been helping advise some ICOs. This claim here, from what I'm hearing, is a handful of people that have maybe put in more than they could afford to lose, or those old sayings: do your own research, don't put in more than you can afford to lose. It applies to the wealthy as well. And I guess it's a bit frustrating, particularly for DigitalX, if people are putting in $1 million and then saying, oh, look, that ICO went down, I was just looking to flip it, and then trying to press charges against them. So let's see how this plays out. But, Ethereum's probably down 70% from when they invested. Most ICOs are down between 70 and 90%. The whole market is, guys. I'm not really sure what the outcome is here. If you invest in something, you have to do your own research. You can't just ask for your money back if it goes badly. And if it flips or does 10x, you're all happy and you're dumping it on market. And then the first one that goes bad when the market turns, you're threatening to sue a publicly listed company. So let's see how that plays out. But do your own research, guys. You can't change your mind months after the fact and say, this has gone down, I'm not happy, I want my money back. I don't think that's very fair. Australian real estate major to trial blockchain powered solar energy. So you guys have seen this. Vicinity is the name of the firm, and Pow Ledger is obviously the company that we're very familiar with. We love them. 42 billion in real estate under management. These are the sort of partnerships and trials that we love to see. Pow Ledger continuing to do these in so many different countries and just planting those seeds for a renewable future. Now, the price didn't necessarily move the way we'd want it to. We know that markets are irrational, but these are the sort of companies that are having these good announcements that when the market turns, I think they're going to run pretty hard. So, it's great to see. I'm not too fussed what the price does in the short term. I'm happy to own these sort of companies. Getting onto the Australian banks, I know we sort of tend to talk about them maybe too much, but it's all related to crypto, fiat, and debt. So this is our first publicized article. So Nuggets News team continues to expand. We're going to be doing a lot more written content. Let us know what you think of this article, guys. The greed of the Australian banks being exposed in that Royal Commission report this week, and these headlines certainly aren't finished, and hopefully we'll continue to cover it in an easy to understand fashion and bring you guys all the latest. So set that as a homepage, guys. We're going to have a lot more written content. Let us know what you want to cover, and the journalists that we've partnered with have been absolutely fantastic. So I hope you guys are happy and check that out. I tweeted this out, glorifying young children in primary school taking out $500,000 mortgages, and this mindset that property only ever goes up. we need to get on the property ladder. You need to, get on the rungs. And yes, there's good debt and bad debt. I'm not here to argue about all that, but I just think that glorifying things like this, and people can leave uni with a debt that, hamstrings them for the first, few years of their life where they're paying off HECS and whatever. Yet here we are encouraging kids that haven't even been to high school yet or chosen a career to go out and get mortgages with the help of their parents and whatnot. I think this is the sort of thing that if we have a correction in property, we'll look back at these articles and just say, what were we thinking at the time? Wall Street Journal covering this story that 88 million was laundered through 46 crypto exchanges. So guys, a round number, that's maybe 2 million per exchange. Obviously that's not what we want to happen. A majority of good exchanges have stringent AML and KYC, so this doesn't happen. But how this is a story when every week the banks are laundering hundreds of billions of dollars, it just does my head in seeing the Wall Street Journal take their time to make crypto look bad when the truth is it's 1,000 times worse what the banks are doing. That should be their focus, not a little bit of crypto. Millions of dollars are really just so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. JP Morgan, 76 banks, I think, was the total number here, getting together to trial another blockchain settlement system. So I know a lot of people have been pretty excited about Ripple lately and XRapid, and for that to succeed, it needs to be adopted widely by a lot of banks, and they need to use the XRP token. Now, we continue to see banks experimenting with their own ledgers, and just as we see here, this is another example. So this is why, personally, I'm not an owner of XRP, because I just think the banks are going to experiment and come up with their own system, a very centralized blockchain or ledger, whatever it is. I don't necessarily think they're going to adopt something like Ripple that's already out there, but who knows? I could be wrong, guys. Let's see how this goes. Elon Musk was in the news this week. Now, only a few hours ago, it came out that he has settled this. So he's agreed to step down as chairman for 3 years and cop a $20 million fine just for tweeting something, but he's staying on as CEO. So was that the right thing to do, to say what he said about raising money privately at a certain price, and it was pretty much a done deal, and then smoking, whether or not he even inhaled that joint on Joe Rogan? Yeah, it's certainly frustrating when we see these headlines and no bankers going to jail. Corruption far and wide. The SEC couldn't even stop something as obvious as BitConnect. All these sort of things that you guys are very aware of if you're one of my audience. And yet these guys love to jump on something like Elon and make him look like the ultra bad guy when he really is a visionary. He's a little bit different. Aren't we all, guys, if we're in the crypto space? Former UBS bankers raise $100 million to build a crypto bank. Now, this isn't the first time I've heard of this happening, and there's more than one on the way where these companies want a financial services license, they want a lending license, they want a crypto exchange licenses, they're buying a bank. So it's just tying all these different worlds together. So your one account will be able to, have all those things rolled into one for these high net worth individuals. This is coming. We know we're waiting on that Wall Street money and the next wave of institutional investors. And I continue to report these stories every week, guys. It's not going backwards. It's going forwards. These are the sort of stories where people are now saying, how can we safely store $1 trillion? Because we think the market cap, it's going up there. So a few years ago, you downloaded a basic wallet. You had to learn how to store your private key yourself. There was no tutorials. It really was the Wild West in the dark corners of the internet. Now we see some, Coinbase custody and the like, talking about Bakkt. I'll touch on them again, how to safely store the private keys and so on. And this is that next wave. How do we safely store seriously big amounts of money in the trillions? How do we ensure that? What are the best practices? As I said, guys, this is all just building that foundation for that next big run. Coinbase introduced the bundle. You guys have heard me talk about the big three, and a lot of people sort of get upset that I mention Litecoin in the big three, but the fact is it's the oldest coin now without a hard fork. These products that track the top 5, the top 3. Coinbase has always been a huge supporter of Litecoin. This is just another example here of institutional dealer adding Litecoin trading. So it's just that safe play because it's a currency. It's no danger of being a security. It's old. It's got a trusted community. Charlie Lee's the head of it. He's got a huge following. So there's so many reasons that I think other coins in the top 10 could easily fall by the wayside, and we've seen other coins get up even in the top 4 or 5, and then now, back down, not even in the top 10. Whereas Litecoin, I just think is always going to be there, and I covered it a bit last week. Here's another example of it being in the headlines. Austria to list bonds on the Ethereum blockchain. We've seen it happen in Australia. Now Austria. It's this trusted chain that's been around. As I said, there's these other very promising networks, but for the time being, there's certain cases like issuing bonds where we don't need a lot of transactions per second or anything like that. Ethereum can handle certain applications very easily already. I'm going to work on an episode about scaling in the future, guys. There's actually 7 scaling solutions on the way for Ethereum, and a lot of people know maybe about 3 of them. But I look forward to talking about that in more detail. This was a saddening one for me. Zebpay have been around for a few years. Back in about 2013-14, there was a lot of these remittance services that were competing, and Zebpay really did a great job, became a leader throughout India. Disappointing to see that they're having to sort of close down because of the issues they've had with the banks. And this is just as we spoke about with China and so on before, guys. It doesn't mean the crypto is over in India. It's just going to drive it, underground into the shadows a little bit more. ByNance, I've got a huge interview this week with Teddy Lin, who is CZ's right-hand man. Don't miss that interview, but CZ coming out just a few hours ago talking about the ByNance coin being that native token, the gas, if they build that decentralized exchange. And that is exactly what I was hoping for, and I've spoken about a few times. And the price didn't really jump, and I think that is just another huge use case that should drive up the price of that token in future. And I thought it would have reacted more on this news, but it's great to see that they're on that track of incorporating the BNB token into that decentralized blockchain that they build. Maker, another one of my favorite projects, receiving 16 million, I think was the total in the end, from Andreessen Horowitz, if I've pronounced that correctly, a big firm that's invested in a lot of quality projects early on. Maker continues to lead the way. The multi-collateral DAI stablecoin is just about ready for implementation. I think this coin is going to be the leader in terms of stablecoins. We've seen a lot of others come out this week. We've seen a few in Australia come out. Yes, they're all going to have their little pockets and applications, but I think people are going to realize the wide applications that Maker DAI has with those collateralized debt positions in future. Funfair, you guys know this is one that I absolutely love. They launched their first casino platform this week, only available in certain countries. Check out Casino Fair. I'm not sure if you can have a play around with that if you've got a VPN, if you're not in one of those countries, but great to see them ticking boxes. They've got a scaling solution with their state channels. They've got a working product. It just ticks all the boxes, strong team. So that's why I love that one. We kind of knew this one was on the way, coming from Bakkt, their first product being those physically settled daily Bitcoin futures contracts. So anything that actually buys the real Bitcoins is okay by me. I just don't want those derivatives and layers upon layers, rehypothecation and all that sort of thing. So if it means one-to-one ownership, I'm all for that money coming in, guys. Looking forward to this one launching hopefully in November. Now this week we didn't get that yes ETF decision that people were wanted. We didn't really even get clear notice of delay, but after the SEC seeking more feedback, I think a lot of people sort of saying, well, was that a delay? Is it back to December now, or is it February? But either way, I really noticed an uptick in sentiment this week. And I've said it before, when things turn, whether or not it's yesterday in Australia Grand Final Day, you've got people around you asking about if Bitcoin's dead. There's so many people that are going to get interested, guys. I think it's that 10,000 number that we've seen people like Mike Novogratz come out and say, yeah, the rally's coming early next year. Tom Lee predicting $1,900 Ethereum and these catalysts of institutional FOMO when we get to those levels. So So many good headlines. Let's dive in and have a look at the charts. We're still in this tightening weekly equilibrium pattern. Last week we're trading at around 6,700. It was a pretty, sideways week, guys, up and down. We're looking really at this 7,300 level. If we can get up there, that's the sort of upper bound on that weekly equilibrium. And then we've got this strong support down here that we've held so many times at 6,000 and then around that 5,758 level. So it's going to break, guys. Is it this week? Is it next week? It's going to be a big move either way. And really, if it breaks to the downside and there's no bad news, I think that's going to be that buying opportunity and we get a very sharp V-shaped recovery and correction. And if we break to the upside, come back and retest this level, that is when people that were waiting for that one more low are going to FOMO in. And I don't want to go into too much more detail than that, but everything is just it feels like it's setting up nicely. There's a healthy mix of people that are wanting to short versus new traders coming in, people that have been patient, that are sort of averaging in and buying the good altcoins and whatnot. Ethereum's recovered really strongly ever since it had that flush low. So I'm being patient, guys. I do have more capital on the sidelines if we get that one more leg lower, but the longer we just build this base above 6,000, it's such a healthy launch ramp. And I know I keep saying it, but the one other coin I really want to look at here, guys, was Wabi. So one that I've spoken about a lot. Sorry, guys, I'll just type it in. My watch list rearranged itself during the week, which is a bit frustrating. So Wabi was one that I spoke about when it was 12 cents, and one of those coins that I talk about in my premium service. So for $50 Australian a month, we talk about trading, fundamentals, a bit of everything. I know you guys have been really enjoying that, and a few trades we've had lately have basically made a year's worth of profits for some people. So I love getting those messages from people. Some people saying, one person in particular making like $30,000 in a day, going from their job where they used to work for $60,000 a year. Guys, learn these basic skills of trading. When you see huge, clear opportunities, whether it's long or short, if you know how to trade and you can do this on margin, even without margin, something like Wabi, if you got an entry at 11 or 12 cents, you've doubled your money in a couple of weeks. And if this gets back to break even, 5,000% profit, guys. So let us know, guys. We love people joining our community and being good contributors. It's not a straight trading group, but people continue to ask me about that. And last year I did a lot more trading. Certainly, I'll let you know when there's trades that I'm liking or what I'm thinking. I want to teach people, as I've said before, teach people how to trade. I don't want to necessarily spoon feed them entries and exits. You've got to learn these skills for yourself, and it's a lifetime of knowledge. A couple other thoughts I just want to leave you with. These fiat headlines. So we've seen Argentina, IMF bailing them out to the tune of 57 billion. This has happened in Italy, Greece. It's going to continue to happen. We're going to need to print more fiat money out of thin air and give it to countries who have printed too much money out of thin air. Doesn't make sense. The US are on target to raise interest rates. If they get there with the current debt levels, they're going to be paying 750 billion a year just in interest on the debt, let alone trying to pay down the debt itself. Now, at that stage, they are spending more on interest on debt than their entire military budget, which is the biggest in the world by far. We've still got countries with negative interest rates, so you are paying the bank to keep your money there, which is insane. All these countries are printing money. There's no currencies around the world that are backed by gold. These stable coins are literally better than the fiat money that we have. And Bitcoin is that scarce digital asset. I'm so bullish on it long term, guys. Even medium term, we're so close in this short term. Just be patient. You guys have done the hard work now. These stats that wealth inequality, the top 1% are getting double the wage growth of the bottom 50%, and they're coming off a lower base. It should be a lot easier for these people with low incomes to get that percentage increase. But all the wealth is going to the top end of town, to these big tech stocks, to Wall Street, to people that own property and so on. So it all comes back to the fiat debt-based monetary system, guys, and hopefully with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, we're part of building that new system. So smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.